Welcome to another Mayor's Hour. My sidekick and I, Jack Harris, are going to do the very best we can to mumble our way through this event as we showcase some of the most amazing companies and amazing things in this community that you probably would never get to see. And as always, Jack humors me and puts up with me, and it's been fun. And Jack, we as you can see, we are at probably one of the hidden jewels in the Tampa port, a company that most people really probably have never heard of. They use their products, but they never knew that they were located here in Tampa, and they have such a big facility. It's Amalie Oil. The family happens to be friends of mine, which I am thankful for. But this is this is the first time I've been in this building.
Yeah.
I've been at the port, obviously, a lot. But it's great to see some of the companies that we have here doing so well.
Yeah, this is enormous. And I'm familiar with Amalie Oil because I do storm games, and it's the Amalie Oil field there, and I've done commercials for them and use the product. But most people aren't, and I wasn't aware how large a facility it is here at the port. And as you were saying in the beginning, most people won't see it. And how true that is. The security here is unbelievable. Getting here is really tricky.
Well, you're on somebody's list. I know that.
I think I must be. I must be on an enemy's list or something like that. But it really is. And port security has to be enormous these days. And it's refreshing to see that's the case. But this is just an awesome facility, Amalie Oil.
Yeah, it really is. And we're going to hear a little bit later on from the Port Authority Director. But this is 5,000 acres, Jack, this Port of Tampa, and it's the biggest port in the state of Florida, and it's a huge economic engine for us.
8th largest in the country, and soon, I think, to grow much, much larger whenever relations with Cuba are normalized, whenever we lift the embargo. I think you're going to see this port grow even more. I think you're going to see more things happening, and, of course, they just had container expansion and things like that, so as you say, what is it, $6-8 billion economic engine here.
Jobs associated with this.
Yeah, and it's going to do nothing but grow, I think, and especially with efforts like yours to push, opening up more with South America particularly, and the potential there is enormous. And that's all going to be growth for our port.
Well, we're going to hear a lot about the port. We're going to hear a lot about Amalie Oil. Rick Barquette, the CEO of Amalie, is going to be here with us. He's going to tell us the story of the family and how they got into business and exactly what you see right here, which is a lot of oil.
Wow.
A lot of oil.
Look how far back that goes.
Yeah. Wow. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Mayor's Hour. We are here at Amalie Oil, which is in the Port of Tampa. 5,000 acres in our Port of Tampa. Big, big economic engine. Probably responsible for close to 100,000 jobs, Jack.
Yeah, this is an awesome place. And it really is bigger than my hometown, this building is. And it's having advertised for them and having, of course, played on the Amalie Oil field and used the product and everything. People aren't aware that it's all right here in Tampa. That's incredible.
Well, with us today is Rick Barquette, whose family is the owner and founder of this company. What you have to understand is there are a lot of companies like this in the Port of Tampa that you may just have never heard of, don't know anything about. Obviously, for security reasons, you can't come back in here. But as you can see, there are big operations that are employing a lot of people here. Rick, tell us the history of this company.
Okay, Amalie was founded by two brothers in 1903 in Franklin, Pennsylvania, and from there it was actually named after the mother, and then from there it was sold to various companies. Ended up in Whitco Chemical, and then Sun Refining, which we ended up buying in 1998. So we took control of the brand in 1998. The brand's over 100 years old. It's a historic brand that many people in the North know of, in Central and South America, pockets of Texas, and so on and so forth. Previous to that, we had bought this company in 1977, and our family did, myself and the three brothers, and we did what we call toll blending. And basically what that means is we're taking raw materials from major oil companies, and we're putting it together, we're formulating it, we're packaging it, we're doing all those types of things. So we were doing work for Mobil, Castor Oil, Phenol Oil and Chemical, which is owned now by Total in France. And so in 1998, we had all this experience from doing work for other people, but didn't have our own brands. We had a few brands that we were starting, but in 1998, we actually bought the brand Amalie, changed the name of the company, and then started moving forward marketing that.
It sounds like it started with the genesis of the oil business in Franklin, PA.
Absolutely.
When cars were just getting started out.
You had Franklin, you had Oil City, where Quaker State's from, and so on and so forth, and that's exactly right.
So what exactly are the products that you guys make? I mean, I see a number of different containers here, a number of different brands. What exactly is this?
Well, basically, if it's oil, we make it. I mean, there's many formulas, but Amalie started off in 1953. They were the first ones to make a multi-grade oil. In other words, like a 10W40 or, so on and so forth. That we call that a multi-grade or a multi-bis oil. From then, we've been innovating ever since we took the company over as well. So basically, anything that's lubricating oil from a conventional oil like you would use in your car that meets the API spec, what we call API spec, that your car manual would tell you to use.
And that's American Petroleum Institute?
Yes, correct, yes. And synthetic blends, which is very popular now in the market, where it's a combination of synthetics and a conventional oil, what we call conventional oil. Full synthetics, which is 100% synthetics. Hydraulic oils, transmission fluids, outboard two-cycle oils, marine oils for cruise ships. Wow. Freighters and so on and so forth. Anything that's oil, we pretty much make it here. We have approximately, and the laboratory may tell you something different today, but close, around 500 active formulas. There's about 1,000 that we can tweak different ways on a modeling program to make anything that we need to make.
Where do you export to?
We export to 100 countries. 39% of our revenue goes into 100 countries. Predominantly, we're very strong in Central and South America. Okay. We export to China. We can actually ship product from here to China, ironically enough, cheaper than from here to LA.
Really?
Yes. Out of this port.
Because of you put it on the ship here and send it over as opposed to rail, or
exactly. And there's so many containers coming to this country, the U.S., and not enough going back. So the freight rates are very favorable.
Going back because they're trying to build business.
Absolutely. So as opposed to putting something on a truck and shipping a customer, I'm talking about a customer in the Los Angeles area or Seattle, we can ship a container out of here all the way to China or Japan or wherever, anywhere in that region, Vietnam, for actually a little bit less.
Wow.
Through the Panama Canal.
So why the Port of Tampa? I mean, you're a big customer here. You're a big user here. Why?
Well, we tell people that we made the wrong turn on the way to Texas because that's where all the oil is, but that's not really true. Basically, the facility was here, and we had acquired the facility and then tried to build it up from there, which, we think we're getting there. We still think that we have a long way to go. We have really great people, but basically it's on deep water. So we buy all of our cargo, and a quart of oil, about 80% is what we call base oil. So it looks like oil to you, but it doesn't meet any spec for any car or snowmobile or marine requirement or whatnot. So we bring in most of that by water, million-gallon cargoes up to 4 million-gallon cargoes. We bring some by rail. So the port offers all that. We have around 40 feet of deep water here. So we can bring barges, we can bring ships from all over the world.
And can they come directly to your facility,
Absolutely.
Or do they have to get offloaded and then brought over?
On the back end of this property, but I'm not going to make you walk that far. It's a very long walk. On the back end of the property, there's a big cove there across from the Davis Island marine area. Yeah. And we have a pipeline that runs down there along with all the other terminals around here that have gas and so on and so forth. And we just pump it in about.
So the ship will come in, you'll offload it by pipe and bring it directly to your tanks here.
Right. We have about 150 tanks ranging from 5,000 gallons to 1 million each. We can store about 20 million gallons on site, which is 3 times more than any of our competitors, independent competitors in the U.S. The major oil companies have facilities that are that large. The Shells, the Exxon Mobils, and so on and so forth. So that gives us a little bit of an advantage. Being in this port is huge They work with us. We work together very well with Wade Elliott
Right.
and his group over there that helps get the steamship lines in here so we can go to more ports outside of here. And then we also have the heavy rail, so we can bring in our additives that we mix in the oil to make it meet the spec of the car. And we also bring in the plastic pellets because we're manufacturing every plastic container you see here.
Wow, and
Wow.
so basically, it's all oil. You wouldn't call it refinery, is what they do with gas in
Right.
places like
in
Texas.
our world, it's
Oklahoma,
called
so.
compounding and blending, or formula and packaging. You're formulating an oil. It looks like making chicken soup, but it's to a specification that meets your car standard. And we're licensed by the additive companies to make it a certain way so it meets the qualifications of your car.
Where does most of your oil come from?
Most of our oil
crude.
comes from the Gulf Coast, Texas area, Texas, Louisiana. But we buy about 60% under contract from the Gulf Coast to make sure we get steady supply, and then we can buy the rest by ship from anybody that we really want. And we just do that for steady supply and to make sure that we're staying competitive for our customers. Because if we're not competitive and we don't have high quality, then there is options.
Now, you are Tampa families? This
We
is
actually
a family business?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were actually born and raised in Miami.
Okay.
But
Well, we won't hold that against you.
Yeah, exactly. But I've been here, all of us have been here half our life. We were born and raised there. My father, we grew up in the oil business, you might say. We'd go to school, and he had gas stations, so we'd pump gas. He had about 5 or 10 gas stations.
Back in the day when you would actually, the kid would come out and pump it and clean your window.
Yeah,
And,
clean the
Right,
windshield.
exactly. We had to do it all. We had to pump the gas, clean your window,
And get your green
check the oil.
stamps, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you were lucky enough, you'd get a little tip, But so we ended up, when we bought this facility,
So you own this facility here?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, the actual dirt is we lease on a
Yeah,
long-term
okay.
lease. And it sits on about 25, around a little over 20 acres from the Port Authority on a long-term lease. We just re-signed a 30-year lease. And the building itself is about 300,000 square feet, which is about 7 acres under roof.
Yeah, I mean, you can see,
And
look down here. You can see the depth of this and how far this goes. This is a big, big building.
I'm guessing the biggest building in Hillsborough County, maybe in anywhere in this part of Florida or in a state.
there's some pretty big ones, but it's up there. I think it's up there. And we go around 32, 34 foot with the ceilings, as you can see, so we can use these automated rack systems throughout the facility. So we've got about 12,000 pallet positions in this building. This system alone behind you is one of the few. There's only about 8 of these in the world. There's a little cart that runs these pallets back and forth. So if we're producing the product down on the other end, and our shipping area is in the area that we're standing in right now, where we ship the product out, it actually we put it in there and we load it. You can see a pallet moving down there right now. It's a little electric cart that picks up the pallet and moves it down, and this stores
See
40.
this, Jack, right here? Right here.
Yeah.
See it coming this way?
Yep.
Yeah. So it'll go 44 deep. This whole system stores a little over 3,000 cases per slot, 250,000 cases right here. So that'll last us about 2 weeks maybe.
That is amazing.
Wow.
All automated up there,
Yeah.
too. I mean, and I'm looking at the product, Wolf's Head, and then the Amalie here, and the ATF there, and I can't even see Amalie up at the top and everything. So many products out here. It's unbelievable. This, when you began here, how large was the facility? Did you start all at once with this area
No.
that large?
No, the area was approximately 5 acres. It was all ground level, what we call Quonset huts. And as you know how much it rains in Tampa, everything would be underwater. So that was in 1977. Around 5 acres, we processed around 4 million gallons annually. We currently process around 50 million gallons annually. So it's grown a lot. But in 1980, 81, we built the first building. On the other side of that block wall that you see down there, that was the first 100,000 square feet we built. Then in 1999, we built another 175,000. And then across the street, we've got 30,000 that we're going to add another 80,000 on, we hope. So we're around 300,000 now. We hope to be around 400,000 within the next 2 years.
We've got about 2 minutes left in this segment. What do you see for the future, Rick?
I mean,
Additional growth. You and I have traveled to Panama and to Central
absolutely.
South
That was a
America.
great trip, by the way, and we got to know each other a
Yep.
little bit better. And that was a fun trip. We learned a lot about the canal. We do business down there, and I think that you would say the same. We learned a lot about the canal and what's going on down there. It's just amazing. But to get off that for a minute, we spend the same amount on CapEx, which you have to keep putting the equipment in. Because you can't get a large customer unless you can produce the product.
Right.
You can't say, wait, I have to buy this machine. It's going to take 3 or 4 months. So we keep spending the same amount no matter what. We have great people. We think that because we're an international company as well, We service all 50 states. We have all the big box retailers that we're selling. Any of them that you want to name out there, whether it be Sam's Club, the AutoZones, the O'Reillys, and so on and so forth. As far as also little small distributors, which is what we built the business on, and the export side being 39%, that's where the emerging market, that's where everything's growing.
That's great. And so we're looking at using Port of Tampa as a platform to expand to Central and South America. And we speak the language, obviously, and there's a lot of cultural similarities. And so that's why that expansion of the Panama Canal and the success of this port is so important to customers like him, as well as his ability to create jobs, which helps all of us.
Oh, yeah, for the economy. This is an enormous boon to the economy with this many people.
I think it's going to give the port the ability to access more steamship lines, so they'll come to our port. And that helps our whole economy. Yeah. Because that means maybe we'll draw more manufacturers here, because there's not really enough of us. So we can't ship everywhere that we'd like to ship out of here yet, but they're working hard at the port to improve that every day.
That's great.
That's great, Rick.
Well, stay with us. We're going to go to the lab where you're going to see how these blends are manufactured. Rick, congratulations on a great Tampa success story, and to the entire Barquette family. You've been great corporate citizens. We look forward to even more from you, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Mayor's Hour. We are here at Amalie Oil in the Port of Tampa. Jack and I just got done talking to Rick Barquette, the Chief Operating Officer of the family that runs this. Jack, we are with a great American here. We are
Penn State.
Penn State. There we go.
Oh, boy.
There we go.
Holy guacamole, being from WVU back in the day.
That's why I caught him by surprise. He didn't know I was going to do that. So we're here with John DeSilvestri.
That's correct.
Who is the chemist here at Amalie Oil. And as you heard from Rick earlier, there's a lot of high technology chemistry that goes into producing these blends.
Yeah, and when I first met you, I was impressed right away to know that you're the guy in charge of designing, I guess, new blends and working with what you have and making it a little bit better, doing all of these innovative things. And just tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, you went to Penn State. Where are you from, but how did you get the kind of knowledge necessary to actually do this?
He was cooking up cocktails in college. I wish he had been in my fraternity house, because we could have had it big time.
Well, my father actually worked for Ford Motor Company in Dearborn, Michigan. So some of my earliest memories are working on cars with him. He was a bit of a hot rodder, so we did a lot of engine tweaking and things.
Right.
That's kind of how I got interested in it, and that's kind of how I got interested in chemical engineering. I love to mix things together and see what you get out of it.
This is all about chemistry and chemical engineering and everything to the nth degree. I mean, this would be the dream job for anybody in chemical engineering.
It's very interesting.
So your degree at the greatest university in America was in chemical engineering?
Yes.
Go Penn State.
Second. It's number 2.
So how'd you end up down here in Tampa?
I actually moved down here for employment.
Really?
Yeah.
And how did
I didn't start here.
How did you get into here and get into such a lofty position to be running the lab and everything here?
I found out about this company through a friend of mine, and I was very interested in coming out here, and I came out and interviewed, and I was lucky enough to get hired and brought on.
That's great.
Did they bring you on as the head of the lab right away, or did you work your way into that?
I did come in as the head of the lab, yes. Now, I had a mentor who worked here.
Right.
His name was Don Eggerman, and he's been a technical director for this company for probably 27 years, and he pretty much brought me in and taught me a lot of the ins and outs of the
industry. What exactly do you do here? We saw all the cases of product. Rick told us about the different types of products that you have, who you distribute them to. What goes on in the lab?
So in the lab, we're really responsible for ensuring the quality of what we're sending out to the customers. So everything that comes into this facility or goes out of this facility is tested right here in this lab. All of our suppliers, we have specifications, we expect them to send the raw materials into us and we have them send us certificates of analysis for those.
So you test it before you blend it?
We test it before we blend everything to make sure that it meets the specs we need to make the formulas that we need. So the formulas are developed early on. In the U.S., there's a governing organization known as ILSAC, and that's basically the Japanese auto manufacturers and the American auto manufacturers. And they get together and they develop specifications for the oils they want for their engines. So to test an oil, it is partly bench testing and then also actual engine testing in the engines, where you'll tear an engine apart after you run the oil in it, see how you got, what kind of sludge formation you got, valve train wear, bearing corrosion, those type of things. Once you have a formula that exceeds their expectations, then you can license that formula with the American Petroleum Institute. Once you've licensed that formula, now you have a formula set. So what we do is we set specifications to ensure that every time we blended it like that one that we passed, that passed all the tests for the governing bodies. And that's basically what we're doing in this lab.
And what are the differences in the products that you produce?
Oh, they're varying wide. I don't know if Rick told you, but we probably have 500 different formulations.
Right, and it just depends on what the ultimate end user needs it for?
So if there's tests for industrial gear oils, we manufacture hydraulic oils, transmission fluids, passenger car motor oils, heavy-duty diesel engine oils, and all those things can have different attributes that we're looking for.
So the stuff that you pour into your automobile that my wife always forgets about, it's just straight-up motor oil?
That's motor oil. It's not just, there's a lot of technology that goes in that motor oil. So there's a lot of different things that we add to the oil to perform in your car. So things like nitrogen compounds. So nitrogen in your oil will basically, what it does is, in the combustion process in your engine, you'll get particulates and things in your oil. You don't want that in there. Nitrogen will actually bind to those, hold them in suspension in your oil, and that allows your filter to remove those particulates instead of just selling it out as sludge in your vehicle.
Yeah.
Things like calcium, that works as acids form in your engine. So just like you take a Tums for your stomach to counteract the acid in your stomach, same thing. We put calcium in an engine oil to counteract that. It also works as a detergent to help keep your engine clean. There's zinc compounds, phosphorus compounds,
and all of
anti-wear.
all of those things are added here?
All those things are added here, yeah.
So this is going to sound like a ridiculous question, but I'll bet a lot of people don't know the answer. Tell me the difference between 10W, 40, 30, 20. I mean, when you go into the store.
I was wondering the same thing, so no, that's not a ridiculous question.
So the difference in the 5W20 or a 5W30 motor oil is mainly viscosity. So what that, before the hyphen, the 5W, the W stands for winter. So
for what now?
For winter.
Winter.
So it's a cold temperature viscosity measurement, and basically it's measured by a cold crank unit, which is actually this unit right behind us here. And what it does is it simulates the viscosity of oil in your crankcase bearings. So the easier it is for that engine to crank over, the less power it takes, the better fuel economy you get. So you have a lighter oil. So a 5 is lighter than a 10 is lighter than a 20 weight. Then the second number after the hyphen, that's your viscosity at 100 degrees C. So that's a standard in the industry. You measure the resistance to flow, which is viscosity, and a 20 weight is lighter than a 30 is lighter than a 40. So the push right now is to lighter and lighter weight oils because they can be energy conserving. So if you drop the viscosity of your oil, it's easier to get through the engine and you get better gas mileage.
So a typical Florida driver, what's the best oil?
Best oil for the typical Florida driver is
an Amalie product, obviously.
Yeah. What a vehicle owner should do is consult their owner's manual, and it will tell them. Right. Different engines may require different weights of oils, and that's because of the materials in the engine, the tolerances and clearances they use to design the engine, the emissions treatment things. That all affects how you formulate your oil. So if you consult your manual and it tells you, then you just go to find the best Amalie product that matches that specification.
There we go.
Or you can go to our website. We have a handy tool on the website where you can put your car in.
What's your website?
It's Amalie.com.
Okay, Amalie.com.
Amalie.com, and you enter your engine or your vehicle information. It'll tell you exactly what product we have to work in your vehicle.
All right.
Well, this is really a dumb question. The term viscosity, I've always thought was like the smoothness or the...
Viscosity is resistance to flow.
Resistance to flow.
Yeah, so it's basically a measurement of how easily a fluid will flow at a certain temperature. So water at 20 degrees Celsius is a 1. A syrup might be 5,000 type of thing. So basically you're measuring the resistance to flow.
Are you all involved in innovative work here, trying to create new products at this time, or just perfect what you have, or what all does go on?
Yeah. Well, we're constantly trying to make a better product. We work hand in hand with our additive suppliers to tweak products that we manufacture here to get a little better performance each time. A lot of the work we do is based on mandates for with the getting cleaner air acts and things. You have to actually change the way.
Oh yeah, y'all are very much
oil.
involved with that, I guess.
Yeah,
the
so
EPA.
actually right now the entire industry is getting ready to move to a new standard for engine oils. That'll be out in 2016. So currently that's the work that's going on right now, is first developing all of that testing, what they're going to test, how they want the performance of the product. And then as soon as they let us know what that is, then we'll start developing the formulations to meet those specifications that they're going to get.
John, we got to go. Thanks for being here. Go Penn State.
Nittany Lions.
And we're going to have a video about another one of the tenants here in the port, and we'll be right back with Paul Anderson, who's the CEO of the Tampa Port Authority. We're going to take a little boat trip, and so stay with us.
At Trademark Metals, we buy, process, and ship non-ferrous and ferrous metals that normally would end up in a landfill. Ferrous metal is metal that contains iron. Non-ferrous metals are any metal that doesn't contain iron, and examples of those would be aluminum, copper, brass, zinc, and stainless steel. A typical day here at the port, we usually start up at 6 o'clock in the morning, start grinding the material that comes in. We receive material from 7 retail, what we call feeder yards, that TMR owns in the Bay Area, and also we buy from other auto salvage yards, other scrap dealers in a 7-county area. The car shredder, which has a 7,000 horsepower motor on it, we're inserting cars that have been drained of all the fluids and mercury switches. You got a mix of household appliances, everything from tin off of a roof, a metal building, to I-beams, to whole cars. The interesting thing about this machine, for every 8 hours of running time, there's about 8 hours of maintenance. So as soon as the day shift ends their shift, the night shift comes in and starts doing cleanup and maintenance. After everything goes through the shredder, once, for instance, a car hits the chute and goes into the actual disc that turn the car or scrap into fist-sized pieces, takes about 3 or 4 seconds. Once that happens, all the ferrous metal goes through 2 magnet system, goes out the end of the stacking conveyor, and that product will be sent to steel mills domestically and internationally throughout the world and be melted into new steel, whether it's rebar, I-beams, flat-rolled steel for new cars. The rest of the product, including the non-ferrous and any of the upholstery or glass that won't be recycled, will go over to a series of eddy current magnets. Basically, eddy current magnets use reverse polarity, and the metals actually will jump off of the belts. That material will be sent to a recycler that will remelt the aluminum, remelt the copper, the brass, into new products. About 20% of the waste in a car will actually go to a landfill and used as daily cover. We recently got approval 2 weeks ago by the EPA to recycle that plastic that comes out of the scrap and is in that shredder fluff that now goes to the landfill. So we're excited about the future and being able to potentially recycle that plastic. The 944 Liebherr crane is an electric crane. We recently purchased that machine last July and was shipped over from Germany. It has no diesel or gas motor on it, 100% electric with hydraulic pumps, and It's actually tethered with a cord off of our incoming transformer. So the power that we're using for that crane is the same power that feeds the shredder out there. By doing this, we're able to minimize our carbon footprint. We're hoping that this machine is going to be successful for us, and hope to buy many more in the future. The port is a good strategic location for us. It gives us the ability to ship anywhere in the world on the water. We can load trucks too and rail. We've been a tenant here since the late 1980s. We like to say we've grown with the port. They've been a great partner in what we do and our expansion and the growth of TMR. We're excited about our future. There's a lot of great technology coming out today for recycling. We hope to recycle the plastic that's coming out of the scrap, something we weren't able to do up until the EPA's ruling 2 weeks ago. The technology that's coming out today is much more advanced than it was 20 years ago. We're really excited about our growth and keeping our material out of the landfills. Growth and technology is endless, so we're very excited about that. Tampa's a great place. It's business friendly. Trademark employs over 500 people, 24 locations throughout Florida, one in Georgia. We probably have 150 employees that live and work in the Bay Area, along with countless vendors, trucking companies. It's just a very business-friendly city.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all working with United Way for a million little reasons. The kids of our communities, to ensure their academic success all the way to graduation day. You see, it takes about 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a kid becoming one or the other could be a professional athlete, or it could be you. Studies showed the earlier we get to kids, the better their chances. So become a United Way volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and make a difference in the life of a child, for the life of that child.
Give. Advocate.
Volunteer. Live United. Join your favorite NFL players. Take the pledge. Go to unitedway.org.
Welcome back to another segment here. We are with the captain of the ports, so to speak. Paul Anderson is the brand new, relatively new, CEO of the Port Authority. We stole him from Jacksonville. He is another member of what I refer to as the dream team here in Tampa. And that really is changing the face of Tampa, Jack, and changing our economic DNA. We're going to get aggressive about marketing this port to the world. And that's Paul's expertise. And Paul, we are glad to have you here. It's been a good couple months. I know you've been on the road a lot already. And so this is your official first Mayor's Hour, and more importantly, a great welcome to the amazing city of Tampa.
Mayor, thank you very much. And it's first, let me make it clear, it's great to be led by the leader of the dream team right here with
there you go.
Mayor Buckhorn. Just delighted to be here in Tampa, and there's nothing I would rather do than be out on a working tugboat on a beautiful day in Tampa Bay to tell people and tell our story of this vision that we have for growing this port.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing couple minutes with us as we get to see the port from the water side. For those of you that can't tell, we are on a tugboat. We are actually moving. Jack wanted water wings in case the seas got a little rough. He's been popping Dramamine all day long. But we're going to be
my
okay,
first
Jack.
cruise.
For a guy from West Virginia, This is kind of like a cruise, a luxury cruise.
That it is, for sure. You know, that is incredible that you've come into this situation with this port, because it's not a well-kept secret or anything, but most people, I mean, the vast majority of people have no idea how big this port is and what a huge economic engine it is. And you're talking about the 8th largest in the country, the largest in the whole state of Florida. And the potential is just enormous. I mean, you're nowhere near to the potential of what can be happening in the not-too-distant future when we open up the Cuba and things like that. What do you see for the future now?
Well, I see a really exciting future for this port and the role that we play as an economic engine for our community in this region. This is what you're seeing as we're talking behind us, a working port. 5,000 acres, we do 35 million tons. Those are just facts. But if there's one thing that really excites me, and I know that the mayor, when we talked about coming here, is the opportunity to create more jobs and well-paying quality jobs for that contribute to the tax base, the quality of life here. And these are long-term jobs. When we work with our tenants and our customers, we're doing projects that are 30 and 40 and sometimes 50 years in their duration and their lease. So we're talking about generational impact on the Tampa Bay region.
Now, the Panama Canal is being widened as we speak. That's going to have a huge impact on us here at the Port of Tampa and our ability to compete in the global marketplace. Tell the viewers exactly what's taking place in Panama, why it's so important to us, and what do we think we can gain out of it.
Well, first, Mayor, you're so right. Panama Canal is part of our nation's legacy. We built it. Teddy Roosevelt completed the canal. It was one of the greatest engineering feats in the history of mankind, and it changed the way the world was able to do business. And in today's world, where cargo, all this cargo you're seeing is really the currency of the world today, the new canal is being expanded. They are keeping the old set of locks, which only would handle ships 1,000 feet long. They are expanding by creating a third set of locks, which will allow ships that are both deeper in their draft and longer, up to 1,300 feet. So the largest ships, some of the largest ships in the world, which are now operating and becoming more normal, will be able to go through this third set of locks. So it opens up that same ship, the larger ship that's transiting, because it's wider, longer, and deeper, can carry in some cases 3 times more cargo than the ships that are currently going through the canal. So it's more efficient, and it opens up opportunities and changes trade patterns for the world, and we hope to be a beneficiary of that. And I'll explain to you how. We're not necessarily going to get the bigger ships, but those bigger ships are going to have to transload onto smaller ships, which we currently can handle, and we're going to go after those ships.
And they're talking about now the super cruise liners and things like that. And of course, we have a limitation in the Sunshine Skyway.
Right.
Unfortunately, as visionaries the people were that built that, they weren't quite visionary enough to see what the future was going to hold for these super ships that are coming down the pike now. One of the things that had been talked about at one point for the port was to build an extension to the port outside the Skyway, somewhere near Pinellas Point out that way. Is that still a plan that's being looked at?
You know, one thing's for certain, the world is changing every day as we speak. And we have to be reactive as a port, as a community. The mayor knows this. He's out. He just got back from Germany. We're marketing to the world. And so when we're looking at the ships, both the post-Panamax, we just talked about the Panama Canal, as well as cruise ships getting larger, we have an obligation, I think fiduciary obligation to this community, go look at what our options might be in the event that one of our cruise partners says we really want to bring larger ships that are currently height restricted by the Skyway Bridge. Incidentally, our community is not alone in this. We just were in Vancouver. They have almost a very similar situation.
Yeah,
you have other issues in the Bayonne Bridge in New York. They're having to raise that. Cost of $2 billion are currently underway to raise the bridge for larger ships. So Tampa is not the first community that has to face this. So we're going to do what other communities do. We're going to do best practice. We're going to look at what our options is. We're going to include all of our stakeholders, and we're going to say if there's a return on the long-term investment, again, a 30, 40-year vision that this would pay off for this community, then we'll have to look at ways, and that would be one of the options that we're going to have to look at.
Paul, take us on a journey, if you will, of a typical container. I mean, we all see the ships coming down the channel loaded up with containers.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming into the Port of Tampa. What happens then?
Well, the containers are offloaded off the vessel with what we call a gantry crane, which reaches out onto the ship, loads it onto a chassis, which is a truck chassis. We all see them on the highways as we're driving. They're part of our daily lives. And those are really the vessels, if you will, that have changed the way the world carries its cargoes through containers. And that goes onto a truck chassis. The truck picks it up. It's a very complex way that we pick these off the ship. We put it on the chassis, and then it goes out our gate. Destin, I'll give you one specific example. Rooms to Go is a big customer of the port. If you're shopping for furniture and you go to Rooms to Go, they're one of our great customers. So I encourage you to do business with them.
So that container could have come
from China. And
built.
it started on an inland river, potentially in China, where it picked up from a factory, loaded that container, went down the river on a barge, went to the port of Shanghai, was loaded off the barge, stacked, and then waiting for the ship, loaded onto a ship, comes, in many cases, it comes through the Suez Canal, it might come through the Panama Canal, and then comes into the port, offloaded onto the truck, and then it will go to either a distribution center, in most cases, a Target, a Walmart distribution, and then it's offloaded, they rack or break it down, and then they put it on other trucks that then go to the stores.
What about the CSX train lines, and also people have noticed that there's a huge construction project going on I-4.
Yeah, I-4 connector.
The I-4 connector that the Obama administration gave us money to build. What is the importance of that? And tell us about the expansion of CSX down here in the port.
You've just touched on two of the major projects that I mentioned, legacy projects, generational. These will have significant impacts on our region. The I-4 connector allows that container, I just went through the process of how it comes off, goes onto a truck. Now that truck, instead of going through town, through Ybor City specifically at the Columbia restaurant, and everybody's aware of that, will now directly leave our terminal, go on the I-4 connector, and literally can go to Maine, can go to Chicago, can go to Memphis without a traffic light.
And that is amazing.
And that is amazing. It's amazing from an environmental standpoint. It's less stoplights, less carbon footprint, wear and tear on our roads. We all know our gas tax isn't funding our road rehabilitation like it should. Speed to market, and it allows me and my team, and Mayor goes with us on some of these, to go to our customers and say, this is what we've built. The state of Florida, working with the port and the city and the county, to build, to facilitate you to bring your cargo here. The other one that you mentioned is the Gateway Rail Project, which is the first on-dock rail. It's a mile. We can string a mile-long train right on the dock, and we're going to be coming up to that in a little while when we get to our container terminal. Originally, it's been a partnership with CSX, the state of Florida, and the port to build this game-changing project that opened $30 million, and it opened in November. And we can now take, in this case, the original cargo is ethanol, and we're taking ethanol and going right out of this port that's being imported and taken into the Midwest. It's very attractive, time to market and cost efficient. We're also going to work on growing our container business. We've talked about containers, and even though we're a small container port relative to some of our major competitors, my vision is to grow that portion of our business, and it doesn't happen overnight, but in a 5-year scenario, we might be looking at least quadrupling our business.
That's huge. I've read about that, the importance of containers today, and as you pointed out, it's such an efficient way to move goods now, and there have been great breakthroughs here, one of them being the rail line and so forth, and I know I've read statements from you talking about, that's the future and the direction you're going to be going in.
And it does throw off a lot of jobs. There are so many jobs related to this when you start talking about the downstream jobs all the way to the retail outlet. So we're excited about that.
So Paul, tell us, obviously those are the gantry cranes over there.
Yes, we're coming around to our container terminal. This is a relatively new terminal. It's about 4.5 years old. You will see these, believe it or not, they look very large, but they're actually in the scale of global container terminals. Are actually relatively smaller cranes, but they will reach out over to the ship.
Almost like the child's game that you see
the
in
erector set.
Yeah, the arcade where it drops down and picks it up.
This is the as at the arcade. You pick up, it reaches out onto the ship. It picks a container, comes back over across the ship, across the dock, and then down onto a chassis that's been positioned below it, and it snaps on, and then a truck takes it away. And this is where we hope to really see some significant growth for the future of our port.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Jack.
Well, I'm just going to bring up the cruise business, too. To me, it is awesome to drive downtown on a Sunday and to go around Channelside, or even to go coming across on the crosstown and look down there and see 3 ships berthed and ready to go, ready to take people out. And I love that, the fact that our cruise business is growing the way it is.
We are very happy. We just celebrated our 30th year, by the way, with Holland America, 30 years of cruise business. So these cruise partners of ours, Royal Caribbean, NCL, Carnival, they're in for the long term here. This is a very different cruise market than South Florida or Canaveral. I feel very good about us growing that business. We get about a million passengers. We count them both ways. That's the way we do it. Coming in, we have 5 home-ported ships here. And it's the good news about cruise. I don't want the viewers to think that, you know, a port isn't necessarily for cruise passengers, but it's a good segment of business in what you would call our diversity of our cargo. So we have containers here we're looking at. We have a lot of petroleum, and we supply about 8 million of Florida citizens, and a good portion of the almost 90 million visitors who come here by plane and bring their cars. That fuel is coming through the Tampa port, what we call liquid bulk. And then bulk. Everybody's familiar with our long-term history here with phosphate and fertilizer and the impact that has on our nation, being one of the best agricultural countries in the history of the world. So it's a diverse part of what I think is spectacular about the Port of Tampa. It makes us special.
And we have talked about what Congresswoman Kathy Castor is trying to do and what so many others are working feverishly to try to do, get the embargo lifted with Cuba. And I just see so much enormous potential since it's a plumb line drop down here to Havana, from Tampa to Havana. And I know about the straits. It's more difficult to get there from Miami than it is from here in reality, from the standpoint of fuel and what have you. But if that does happen in my lifetime, I would love to see it happen. I think that's going to just open up all kinds of possibilities here.
Yeah, it's so true, Jack. And as the mayor will tell you, I know he's one of the best ambassador we could have for the city of Tampa. It's about location.
Oh, yes.
Location, location, location. And the same thing when we talk about the possibility of Cuba. We are on a direct line, 90 degrees from Cuba, a straight shot. The other thing that I mentioned earlier was 5,000 acres. We have the land, the ability to handle the huge amounts of cargo that we and the rest of the world, by the way, this isn't just us, sees as this huge opportunity for the redevelopment, if you will, of a country that's been closed for the most part to the world for over 50 years. So there is going to be significant opportunity. It will be in our vision planning, our strategic planning. We have the infrastructure. We have the businesses here that can complement what we would like to do. We would want to be the facilitator for allowing that to happen in the port.
Paul, we've got about 2 minutes left. Most people don't realize that the port owns the land underneath the Channelside Mall. There's been some recent news. This will not be aired for another month or so, but tell us sort of what the vision is for Channelside.
Well, the vision is, Mayor, I think the vision that you have is we want not just Channelside, but that entire waterfront to become a world destination for Tampa. I think from the convention center all the way around, the aquarium, the forum, the stakeholders that have planted their flag with us and are going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars, and we want to make sure the Channelside is the right team, the right project at the right time is we've been through a few machinations of this.
Yeah,
We don't want, we've got the opportunity, and consequently, I would just urge that we all, there is a virtue in business of being patient when you do deals. This is an opportunity for us working with the mayor and our board and the city and to get this right, and we want to make sure we do all of our due diligence. I'm excited about the future of Channelside as a role that it will play as part of a broader waterfront entertainment destination that we can market to our million cruise passengers, which we hope to grow, and be a true entertainment complex we can tout to the rest of the world.
And you never can tell. It'd be a nice place for a little ballpark right north of there.
Well, that's above my pay grade, and I'll let the mayor work on that.
All right, on that note, before I get myself in trouble, or before Jack gets
He
me in
didn't say
trouble,
anything. He did. That was me.
we're going to be right back. Paul Anderson, CEO of the Great Tampa Port Authority, 5,000 acres of untapped potential. This is going to be an amazing place over the next decade. This is going to be what we think of part of the Tampa mosaic, but a gateway to the Americas and a gateway to the world. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Jack, this is almost the finale of another Mayor's Hour. Another great trip to one of Tampa's economic engines, the Port of Tampa, which I hope you got a good view of, and some of the tenants that are here today. Really is a big, big job producer for us.
And people have no idea how expansive this is and what all happens here. And like Amalie Oil, I had no idea how expansive that was. To get a chance to see it and to see what all goes on here, and then talking with Paul about the future, the potential future for this is amazing. And he didn't even explain it all. I mean, it's bigger than you can imagine. When you consider the gems of Tampa, I mean, you've got the Port of Tampa and MacDill Air Force Base and USF and Moffitt Cancer Center, and so many things are growing and growing and growing, and it's just mind-boggling.
Well, and the best part of it is that everyone's on the same page. I mean, we're not fighting about the old stuff anymore. There's no more turf. It's no more us versus them, or Hillsborough versus Pinellas, or Democrat versus Republican. Everyone is fixated on winning.
Yep. Growth.
And, you know, everyone's got the same vision. They got the same game plan. Everyone's working together, partially because we have so many new people in those positions, people like Paul Anderson.
Yeah, and he has a vision, undoubtedly. But I want to talk about some of the things you've been doing here. One of them is, well, now this was recorded earlier, but it would be several weeks ago, a trip to Germany with commitments now from German industry to explore the Tampa Bay area. And then, of course, you're talking about your focus is going to be shifting to South America, which is a natural for here. I mean, Miami's taken advantage of it. We really haven't done it so far.
Yeah, we haven't, and shame on us for not. I mean, we speak the language. We share similar cultures. With the Port of Tampa and Tampa International Airport, as well as, you know, the beaches and some of the other amenities that we have, we really ought to be the gateway to the Americas. Yeah. I mean, you heard Paul talk about the widening of the canal. That offers tremendous opportunities. We went to Germany just to plant Tampa's flag in Europe. I think it was a successful visit. We need more direct flights. I mean, that's a key issue for us, and we're working hard to get them. Germans know Florida, but they mainly know Orlando and Disney. I mean, and Miami.
Miami, yeah.
This is a much better place to do business.
Oh, definitely.
And so we're lucky that a lot of Germans have purchased real estate on the west coast of Florida, so they were familiar with us. But we, you know, got 8 companies who indicated that they were interested in coming here to Tampa to take a look to see whether it makes sense for them or not. You know, that international marketplace and the ability to diversify our job sources really is important, because, as we know, we can't just rely on real estate to prop up our economy.
No, it's time to move on to the next level, and maybe inflation-proof and a few other recession-proof, that kind of thing. I got to mention one other thing. Being with you at the unveiling of the next 6 statues that are going to be out there, some of our founders and some of the people who were so important to the early development of Tampa. 6 statues were unveiled that are going to be part of the Riverwalk. And you made a little off-the-cuff speech up there, and you were talking about what great diversity the Bay Area has. And, of course, a lot of people have known the place as the Big Guava, something Steve Otto began, but that's too much like the Big Apple. You had a great phrase. It is the great paella. That is fantastic. And for folks not familiar with paella, that's the biggest mixture of stuff you've ever seen in your life, all in one big glob. And that's kind of like what Tampa is.
It is. But, it's interesting. When you look at the ingredients of a paella, you would say none of this works together. But when you put it in that recipe, it is a delicious, delicious dish. And that's a lot like this community. I mean, we're black, we're white, we're Hispanic, we're male, female, young, old, rich, those aspiring to be rich, gay, straight. I mean, it is a microcosm of America.
City slickers and hillbillies.
If you and I can do this as well as we do together, I don't even understand what you say half the time, but we're all in this together. But you're absolutely right. That's what makes us so special. It makes us more competitive.
Yep.
And so even if folks don't want to believe that for the right reasons, the moral reasons, believe it for the economic reasons.
Yeah, definitely so.
Because when we go out and compete for jobs, those corporate relocations and those employers want to know that their employees who look like America will be treated fairly here and that can get into the community and do positive things.
And that was another statement you made the other day. We look like America.
We do. We're not a white bread Southern city. We look like all the shades and ethnicities and hues of this great country, and we ought to be proud of it. We ought to celebrate it. We ought to exploit it. We ought to market it because it makes us better in all kinds of ways.
It certainly does. Well, there's so many great things happening. It's just exciting from day to day. I mean, again, the German trip and the potential for South America and things happening at the port, and so many things are growing. USF has just turned into a machine. As Judy Genshaft has done an awesome job there, and just another big economic engine all of a sudden now with camels and everything.
Jack, our tomorrows begin today. I mean, it's really that simple. And I couldn't be prouder of what we've accomplished, but I couldn't be even more proud of what's left to do. So we appreciate you joining us for this edition of the Mayor's Hour. I want to thank Marine Towing. I want to thank Norman Atkins, and I want to thank my fellow board member Steve Swindle, who owns Marine Towing. Anytime you're out on the water, it's a great day. And we'll see you next week, or next month, I guess, for another great Mayor's Hour. Jack, thanks as always.
Ahoy, mateys.
And
whatever that
take
means.
good care.